Today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up. In March I read, I think, 18 books, which sounds like a lot, but it actually is not as impressive as it seems because a lot of these were actually short stories or middle grade. So, not quite as big as the books I had been reading in February. February was a really great month for me. March was still decent, but not nearly as good. I'm trying to get it pulled up, Goodreads pulled up, because I read a lot of ebooks, so I need to have that pulled up so I can see what I read. Okay. Goodreads, just Goodreads. Yeah, it's kind of, Goodreads is kind of dumb. Alright, so first book that I read in March was The Cryptographer's Dilemma by Johnny Alexander. It is book 1 in the Heroines of World War II series, but this is like a non-related series written by multiple authors. You can read it out of order. I started with book 4, I think, at the end of last year. This was really good, though. It's about a woman who works for the FBI as a cryptographer, and another FBI agent who's an actual agent, a man, and they are tasked with trying to find this woman who is a traitor, and they go all around the country trying to hunt her down. It was really fun, really enjoyed it, and I really liked the main couple as well. Alright, next I read... Next, I read Rescued: An Allegory, a short story by Tracy L. Higley. I have read Tracy Higley's biblical fiction before, so I thought I would give this one a go, and it was fun. It was just like a little short story about Christian faith as an allegory of the Christian faith in a medieval setting. So it was fine. I gave that one a 3.5, and I gave Cryptographer's Dilemma 5 stars. Next, I read Cross Purposes and Their Shadows, so that's 2 different stories by George MacDonald. I feel like I read them before. But in a MacDonald collection, but anyway, this was fun. 2 just fairy stories. Yeah, gave that one 4 stars. Not my favorite by MacDonald, but it was still fun. Then I read, okay, I'm gonna bundle 1, 2, how many of these did I read? I read 5 books in the Daring Adventures series. So here's book 1, Ambushed in Africa. And I read book 2, Trapped in Pharaoh's Tomb, book 3, Stalked in the Catacombs, book 4, Caught in the Crossfire, and book 5, Hot Pursuit on the High Seas. I read all of those in March. These were rereads for me, just a fun little Christian middle grade series, just an adventure story. I'd read them when I was a little kid, or not little, I guess, but I have some of them in hardback, or hard copy, which is why I stopped, because I don't know where those are. My life right now is in storage. Don't let these bookshelves fool you. Most of my books are in storage right now. So I have no idea where the originals of these books, not the originals, the hard copies are, which is why I stopped, because I want to keep reading them in order. But this was it's a fun story about a brother, a sister, and their friend who, get into impossible situations. Like, they could not exist at all in real life. But they're really fun anyway. And yeah, for some reason their parents keep letting them go off alone, even though they keep getting in these dangerous situations. They really remind me of the audio drama Jonathan Park. If you haven't listened to those before, please give them a listen. They're really fun. They teach you about scientific concepts through a biblical worldview, and it's great. But there's also just ridiculous concepts. Again, in Jonathan Park, for example, they wind up going to space, like teenagers. So yeah, not exactly realistic, but I still really enjoy it. And of course, I gave all of those 4 stars. That's also the nostalgia talking, because I really enjoyed these as a kid. There's also kind of a thing going on between the friend and the sister, so that's fun. Alright, then I read Rahab, A Woman of Faith. Gave it 4 stars. Just a short story retelling of the story of Rahab by Karen Whittemire. I did dislike, there was one element of it where she said that Rahab thought she would become what she did, again, to protect her family and provide for them. Did not like that part, but the rest of it was really good. I really enjoyed this story. It was just a short, sweet, simple retelling of Rahab. And for once, it did not try to make Rahab not a harlot, which is great, because usually they try to do that. Or not usually, but that's one of my pet peeves with biblical fiction. I need to have a whole video about, I have 2 pet peeves about biblical fiction, and I think I'll make that video one day, because, oh boy, I could rant. Alright, then I read Worlds Unseen by Rachel Starr Thompson. And I gave it like a 2.5 rounded up. It was fine. It's a Christian fantasy. I mean, I didn't really have a lot of thought. It was really didn't grab me. And Christian fantasy is normally my thing, but this one just was not great. Also, it got a little too witchy there for me. Like, Christian fantasy is one thing, but I don't like it when they're using spells or witchcraft or anything like that. It's okay, like, if it's only the villains, which this book it was. So I was like, well, I think that's okay. I felt a little about it. So I just gave it a 2.5. I did round up on Goodreads, because I always round up on Goodreads. Almost always. There may be somewhere I've rounded down. But typically I round up just to, help out the author and stuff. But anyways, alright. Then I finished a book I had started on, let's see, I think it was January 27th is when I started it. When did I start reading it? Goodreads. I can't tell. I think it was January. But, I finally finished it in March, and that is Middlemarch by George Eliot. Yeah, this book is long. Like, as in, Goodreads says it's like 900 pages, I think. Yeah, 900 pages in paperback. I read it on Project Gutenberg. I gave this 3 stars. I kind of expected it to be better because I've heard so many people say this is like the best novel ever. But like, most of the characters were terrible. And I didn't think it did not need to be that long. It did not need to be that long. And I didn't care about what happened to most of the people. And the plot was not there. And like, the main character made a terrible choice, and then we were supposed to feel sorry for her, and I'm like, no, this was your fault, ma'am. This was your fault. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, I think. It happens pretty early on, so I guess I could tell you. She marries a guy who's old enough to be her father, and then she gets mad that they don't have anything in common later. Not gets mad, but like, she's upset that they don't have anything in common later, and it's like, yeah, no, duh. And she was just too, at the beginning, she was very much too, like, she wanted to give up horseback riding because it gave her too much pleasure. Like, she was too puritanical. Very too puritanical. Like, the Lord gave us things to enjoy them, and I think we should enjoy them. Like, if you enjoy horseback riding, there is nothing sinful about that. I mean, I guess there could be a way that would be sinful, but just in general, there is nothing sinful about enjoying horseback riding. There is nothing sinful about enjoying yourself, and she seemed to think there was. So, yeah. But she did get better by the end a little. I don't think she ever really repented of all that, but anyways. Yeah, I only gave it 3 stars. I did like Mary. If you've read it, Mary was great. I loved her. She was wonderful. She deserved better than the guy she ended up with. I'm just saying. She definitely did. Yeah, I didn't like Ladislaw. I liked Mary's parents. They were great. Yeah, it was just, nah. Why did I waste my time? I mean, I'm glad I read it. And honestly, I might buy a copy just because I read it so I can have that on my shelf as a mark of victory because I read this thing. But yeah, not great. Alright, next I read a much better read, The Story of the Treasure Seekers by E. Nesbit. This is book 1 in the Bastable Children series, and E. Nesbit is now one of my favorite authors. I read in January, I think, I read The Railway Children by her, and then I read this, and it's just, she has that style that I love in children's classics. That's like whimsical and fun, kind of like, almost like Peter Pan. I see Peter Pan on the shelf behind me, in the reflection of in the camera. So, kind of like Peter Pan, I love her books. They're so much fun. It's so great. And, yeah, I just really am a big fan. Alright, next I read the Bonnets and Bugles series. I talked about this in a video back in March. It's a Christian Civil War middle grade. So, first book is The Drummer Boy at Bull Run. And then you've got Yankee Bells in Dixie, Secret of Richmond Manor, The Soldier Boy's Discovery, Blockade Runner, and finally, The Gallant Boys of Gettysburg. Actually, no, there's actually like 10 books. I only read the first 6 because I don't own book 7, and I didn't want to buy it in ebook, even though one of them I own in ebook, because book 7 takes place near where I live, and I kind of want to own that one hard copy. So I'm going to see if I can find it in a used bookstore, and if not, I may just bite the bullet and buy it. But anyway, I had read 1 through 5 before, but apparently I never read 6, because I do not remember 6. But anyway, I gave them all 5 stars. They probably didn't deserve it, but that was the nostalgia talking. I just loved this series as a kid, and really, I really appreciated how, this would be a great one to use when homeschooling, seriously, because I really appreciated how this dealt with the hard topics of Civil War. Through the whole series, you have, so there are about 2 families who live in Kentucky. One family moves down south, though, and joins the Confederates, and the other one stays in the north. And throughout this whole series, they are wrestling with the harsh realities of not just war, but Civil War. The one boy is in love with the girl of the other family, but her brother is in the Union Army and he's in the Confederate Army. So they can't get married. She said, like, she won't marry him because she says, what if you kill my brother? Or what if my brother kills you? Like, just, so that's one thing that they're dealing with. And then they're dealing with the fact that, like, both sides say that they, you know, are trying to follow, like, they think that God is on their side. They deal with prisoners of war and, like, what do you do if you're trying to, like, it was just, spies, just, it deals with so many things. There's finally consequences in book 6 for something that happens. Like, for one of the main characters, they finally have consequences on the battlefield, because honestly, they probably went way too long without anybody actually getting hurt. But this is a really great series, and I really can't wait to read the rest of it and finish it up, because I never finished it, because I never got my hands on book 7. And for some reason, I also never read 6. I don't know why. But yes, really liked that series. And, okay, the last book I read in March was book 5 of the Daring Adventure series. I forgot to talk about the one DNF I had of the month, and that was Save the Date by Jenny B. Jones. My mom had kept it. It was my mom's book, and she had kept it. I'd read it a long time ago, but she'd kept it because she thought I would want it, just because the main character is a nerd. She loves Lord of the Rings. She loves Star Wars, which are, as you might know, 2 of my favorite things. Well, you may not know about Star Wars, but you know about Lord of the Rings, surely. If you've been around here at all, hi. If you're not, hi. I love Narnia, Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars. But anyways, however, I was reading it, and, like, I was kind of uncomfortable because all of a sudden there was a very effeminate male character, and then there was mention of a man living as a woman, and, like, it wasn't said as a bad thing, or a good, I mean, it wasn't a good thing necessarily, but it wasn't a bad thing, and it was just like, you know what, I'm not going to keep reading this. So I DNF'd it, and I am counting that, though, for my 2024 Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, because guys, my struggle with reading a book with 2 POVs. Okay, so, I thought Cryptographer's Dilemma would have 2 POVs. It didn't. It had enough that I had to count it as multiple POVs, or more than 2. I thought the Daring Adventures might have 2 POVs. But then no, it had a bunch. I thought Bonnets Bugles series would have 2 POVs, and it didn't. I started that book, and it did, but then I DNF'd it. And then I started another book, and it had more than 2 POVs. So finally I gave up. Chantel said in her video that she was counting DNFs, so I'm counting a DNF. That's a DNF that I am counting for my bookshelf challenge. So yeah, okay. Back to the regularly scheduled content. So, that's all I read in March. Since I had 2 big series I could talk about kind of in chunks, this was a really short wrap-up, which is good, because it's really late. And I've been doing a lot of long filming lately, so this was probably good to have a shorter one. Let me know what your favorite book that you read in March was. Mine definitely was The Story of the Treasure Seekers. I love E. Nesbit. Love her. Seriously, please go look her up. Which, by the way, another reason why I love it is that Story of the Treasure Seekers specifically is mentioned in Magician's Nephew. The very first line of Magician's Nephew says something about something about Sherlock Holmes was living in Baker Street and the Bastables were still looking for treasure. That is reference to that book. So that was fun. Getting to read the backstory for that. But yes, I also really recommend this series. I gave them all 5 stars. Like I said, they probably don't deserve them. But let's be real. This is one of my favorite series, and I'm just going to give it. Now, I will say, if you hate love triangles, they're not necessary. And there are, like, at one point in this series, there are, like, 6. That's too much. Like, the sister of the female mate, so not the girl on this cover, but her sister. I guess it'd be, yeah, this girl. She's in love with she's the one who's in love with the Confederate, but her brother's in the Union Army. But then she has another guy back home interested in her, plus another Confederate officer interested in her. She's not interested in either of them. She's just interested in the one guy. And then the main girl, I think I ship these 2. Like, I ship the main girl and boy. I think they're going to get together at the end. If they don't, I'm going to be mad. Because, like, I have shipped them the entire time. Like, since I was very small. But then she has another love interest in one book, who, like, he stays in the rest of the series. And then he has another love interest who also stays in the rest of the series. But then the girl also has a third love interest who is also possibly in love with the girl that's the boy's other. See, it's just a really complicated web of love interests here. Probably unnecessary, but so if you hate love triangles, this is probably not the series for you, but it's really fun and I really enjoyed it. So what was your favorite book that you read in March? Please let me know in the comments, and I will see y'all next time. Please like and subscribe. Bye.